A few weeks ago, I made a video where I said Xbox's content delivery dump is pretty much going to bury PlayStation. In the live service area, Xbox has surpassed what PlayStation can accomplish in what I think is probably maybe the next 10 years. I think PlayStation taking the approach of wanting to do more live service games, I think it's fair. However, their approach and their hardcore exclusivity in quote stance does not necessarily work for them. In addition to that, we've seen more recently that they can't even afford too many failures at this point. Perhaps investors are going to be lenient with them because they hold a significant console market share, but the market I don't think is going to be as lenient. The market doesn't necessarily care about your console share. The market cares about innovation. It cares about you creating ways to be able to adapt and be able to stay profitable. Xbox has built around itself an ecosystem that does not only require its console. It has its subscription, it has its PC sales, which have pretty much carried its games, its communities, and its live services to a place where they're actually cranking out money. Weird. So something that I have not necessarily taken into consideration in this conversation is how profitable these Xbox live services, especially the small scale ones, actually are. So I was looking around to try to find like a list of, the live service games that they have, and I haven't been successful really. But I saw a Reset Era post, and I remember when I made my video, I think I made a series of videos. I talked about Age of the Empires. I looked at the Steam database. I looked at Sea of Thieves, and those games had, a few thousand players still playing. I looked at Fallout 76, though that being a Bethesda developed game now belongs to Xbox. And this article pretty much pointed out, some of the, Xbox live service games and how some of them didn't kick off right, but eventually they got support and they stayed going. That's the funny thing about Concord is that game could have been supported. The code could have been rehashed, but I don't think PlayStation in their optical illusion that they're playing wanted to actually deal with that come up story. They are usually that company that has presented themselves to be at, every behest, those that execute perfectly. So Concord is a damning, PR look for them, regardless of how you see it. So that's why I think the game had to basically be disappeared. I think they could have reworked the code. I think they could have changed the player models. I think they could have pretty much tweaked the game to improve its game modes to be more in line with stuff that players would align to. But again, they've taken some stances. Their creative decisions, would also mean that they made creative decisions that their own player base, they would have admitted so many things. So I can see from a PR perspective why they decided to basically sunset that game. But this person who put this post said the reason they are talking about this is because if you look at the Steam's top 100 games by revenue in 2023, you're going to see in the bronze and in the, silver category, some Xbox live service games. And I was like, interesting. I've looked at this list, but it never caught my eye. I usually go cite Starfield when it's time to slap lies from hyper PlayStation fans that Starfield was a flop being in this list because, again, you really got to slap these lies down quickly, swat them down. Don't let them, fester because these guys are going to try to gaslight you. And I realized that on the bronze list here, we have Sea of Thieves. Interesting. And it's not by any order. They literally scattered the order so that you don't really know the date. You don't, Steam does it on purpose that way, but they still give you a category. Then in the bronze list, you have Age of Empires, which is an old game at the end of the day, but it's Age of Empires 4, so it's not necessarily old, but they're still supporting these titles, and also Fallout 76, which is interesting. So apparently, right now, PlayStation is not even here yet. They haven't arrived. They're making and trying to get their way down here. Now, do I think Helldivers 2 is going to make it into the list at the end of the year? There's the possibility that happens, but that would be good for them. Remember, I've told y'all that they need to bring their games day one to PC. And if it shows up in any of these lists, then that would have proven my point that there's a benefit here financially. I would like for them to make live services games as well so that they can keep the competition up. You don't want Call of Duty to blaze through them every single day being in Xbox's hands without them having another way to go, another way to respond. Now, I hate closures of studios. I don't want to talk about it in any way that, that doesn't highlight the reality and the challenge. This is just my stance. Some people have said, well, bad business decisions usually have consequences. I agree. I do not disagree. But in this particular state, I think it highlights more the reason why those who kept trying to convince themselves that PlayStation was canceling half of its live service games. I think you may have read Herman Holst's statement, or I don't know whoever wrote the official statement at the closure of Firewalk Studio, where they said that they had learned a lot of lessons and they were going to implement those lessons. And this is my, this is my interpretation. They were going to interpret those or take those learnings and put them into their next projects. So they're still going to go on with this live service thing. However, they're now working from the back foot, and this setback is actually a lot more consequential than it is. I think PlayStation has the opportunity to pretty much start doing the undoable, bring their games to Xbox. Xbox is where people actually do play a lot of these games too, but their pride and their optics is not going to allow for them to. They've taken the stance that Xbox is an irrelevant platform. That's why you see a lot of PlayStation fans, even in the face of the fire burning around the house, they still have some kind of a calm to say some of the craziest things I've ever read. Like, one of the ways I've been able to actually make videos and concentrate on the topic at hand is because I actually have to block a lot of them. Like, I really do. Some of them will lie in your faces. Some of them will not eat. They won't eat their crow. They don't know how to eat crow. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help my fellow PlayStation fans develop the taste for crow, because everybody eats it from time to time. I've had my fair share, and I'm sure there's more crow for me to eat as we go on. But I can't let somebody who would not eat their crow continue to just talk nonsense. That just doesn't work. In a fair world, we all have to ensure that our crow is being consumed in a way that shows that we are respectable human beings. When we have the wrong notion and it's seen that the notion is wrong, what do? We go ahead and ensure that we take, the responsibility for maybe the things that we said that are wrong. By and large, I think PlayStation has a path forward, but it's going to be a brutal one. Optics is not going to save them anymore. All this talk about PlayStation is still this. I saw somebody saying even at their worst, PlayStation is still better than Xbox. You got to be kidding me, bro. You know how many studios they've closed this year? Like, you really have to be kidding me for you to open your mouth and say that, when even their own third-party developers are looking and saying, nah, man, we're not doing business with you. You see, it's a reflection on, those that are hyper PlayStation players, because what that means now is you have nothing to brag about like you had before. You were bragging about all of this stuff because, for some reason you attach your identity to a box. And so that box is failing. And I warned you, and everyone has warned you, don't do that. These companies don't care about you, but you decided that you would anyways. So now your best bet is to just detach. Anybody that serves you, that gives you the entertainment that you want, that you give money to, you do business with them. But that's about it. That relationship is simply a business relationship. It is nothing more. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching. Peace out.